Welcome to this episode of Threading Thoughts, where we talk about an incredibly important concept of workplace conflict and its resolution. Workplace conflict is inevitable given that employees of different backgrounds and different working styles and cultures are brought together. Conflict can and should be managed and resolved. However, the tensions and anxieties usually lead to a loss of work function. Workplace conflict usually is because of employees at odds with each other, and the manager's role is significant and is grounded in the development of a workplace culture designed to prevent conflict among the employees to the extent possible. The negative effects of workplace conflict can include work disruptions, decreased productivity, project failure, absenteeism, and even in some extreme cases, termination. We're in conversation with Suba, who is an executive leadership coach, and she coaches business leaders, C-suite professionals, senior executives, and student leaders. She is an expert in identifying the VUCA leadership growth traits in them and mapping with the industry expectation, enabling sustainable growth. She is also a workplace conflict management coach who's been successful in coaching to resolve inner conflicts and in turn, interpersonal and cross-functional conflicts. She is also a personal branding coach. Many professionals who create a company brand often ignore personal branding. She enables them to create and execute personal branding strategies. She is the recipient of multiple awards and has been featured in multiple podcasts and articles. She has publications to her credit as well and is part of many associations. Welcome to this episode of Threading Thoughts. I am extremely excited to welcome Srimati Suba, and her expertise in various domains has been well noted because she writes quite a bit and she talks quite a bit about it. But today we just wanted to reach out to her on something that has, I think, come a bit to the forefront, which is conflict management, which is also resolution, manage workplace conflicts especially. So we are extremely happy and thankful that you were able to spend some time with us. Thank you so much and welcome, Shubha.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mridula, for this invite. Pleasure to be a part of your podcast series. I appreciate that you are taking effort to bring in experts and then share their thought processes, expertise, and taking it to the wider audience, right? So thank you so much for doing that. Definitely an honor and pleasure to be a part of this, and especially to discuss in the topic which is very close to my mind, which is workplace conflict management. I'm looking forward, all excited to be.
Thank you so much. I can assure you the pleasure is all ours. And I just wanted to sort of start off because we hear this a lot, and I'm sure you'll be able to give us a better thought process or idea about this. So, this, according to this Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument, we have this TKI. So it's usually used by human resources quite widely around the world, in fact. So there are 5 major sort of styles of conflict management is what I understand. So it's collaborating, competing, avoiding, accommodating, compromising. So we hear so much about it, but what actually is conflict management? And why do you think it is important for leaders to understand about
it? As you rightly mentioned, Thomas Kilmann's TKI, this instrument has been widely used. In fact, I have been using it whenever I am conducting any, workshops or the training sessions, whenever I go to corporate and then do it, right? Because, this particular instrument has beautifully brought in 5 major styles of conflict management, as you have rightly mentioned. But as a coach, what I do is I delve deeper. Yeah. So of course, collaborating, competing, avoiding, accommodating, compromising, all these styles, it has, it definitely bring in different elements, but I go deeper. Yeah. When I say I go deeper, what exactly I do as a part of my, it could be a coaching conversation or a workshop or a webinar or, conversation like this that we are having here. So I delve deeper into identifying the root cause, and then the reason behind these root causes, and then what are the emotions, feelings involved, and then the belief system involved, and the perception that, the parties carry along with, right? There are so many things, it's kind of a big mind map that we can create when we are talking about conflict management, right? It's more of a journey from inward to outward. Yeah. That is something that we have to, keep in mind. Let's understand the conflict first. What exactly the conflict is all about? We all watch movies, right, Mrutula? If you keenly observe, the director or the screenplay writers, they normally create many conflicting stories, the moments in the story. Right? Absolutely. It could be a conflict between, hero and heroine, or the families, or, it could be between the hero and the villain.
Correct.
Right? So if you look at it, all these conflicting scenarios create these twists and turns, which makes us feel happy or excited looking at these pictures. In fact, this conflicts or the tweets and the turns in the story, they only take the movie to a box office hit. Otherwise, it's like a monotonous stuff, right? Maybe it will come under that art film or something else, right? Totally the excitement part of it, it becomes completely different. Yeah. So conflict management, it is important. Like how these, the turns and twists are important for movies, conflict is very important for all of us to create different stories so that we all can grow. I'll definitely talk about it, in depth later on. Coming back to your second question, why is it important for leaders? Yeah. See, there is one definition that I, normally use in my workshops. Let me just read it out here.
Sure.
A conflict is when the interest, needs, goals, and values of involved parties interfere with each other. The scenario, whatever these parties get into, that's what we normally call it as conflicting scenario. Here, role of a leader is critical because either the leader becomes the involved, one of the parties who is involved in that conflicting scenario, or he plays a role of a mediator, where there are two different parties. It could be cross-functional or multi-geographical, especially now that we are in this, globalized scenario, virtual scenario, hybrid scenario, right? The conflicts are becoming, the complexity in these conflicts are becoming really, vast, right?
True.
So to be a part of that conflict or be a, mediator, they must develop a skill to manage this, conflict. So because, if you look at leaders' life, they are like sandwiched between the management and then the team, because and their success is at stake, first of all, personally, when it comes to the leaders. And then second, if the conflict between two different functions or two different people is, is not resolved, then there is going to be a team morale which is going down, and then productivity loss, which leads to some business loss. Client may get, dissatisfied with the outcome, and then project failure. It's not an easy thing. It could be, sometimes it's like a simple conflict between two, different team members. But if it is not addressed at the right time, it may get into, majorly it may get into spoiling the business growth of that organization. So here, leaders' role will become very critical.
That's beautifully explained because, as you rightly pointed out, a personal conflict can have repercussions on the firm level itself, right? And the company level, external relations for that matter, because you lose business, you've lost or you damaged a relationship with the client as well. So these far-reaching effects make it imperative for leaders to, understand and sensitize themselves. And it's also, of course, I'm sure it's not just sensitizing the leaders themselves, it's also the employees as well, right? Because their behavior also leads to or causes conflicts sometimes, right? I mean, so which actually sort of leads into, my next question perhaps, which is behavioral. So we hear assertive behavior. We hear the term assertive behavior. Some of us have a clear idea, some of us are not so clear idea of it. So I think you're the best person to ask about this as well. But is assertive behavior useful or harmful? when you look at conflict management, what are your thoughts on that?
Beautiful. In fact, you brought in an important aspect here when you're talking about assertive behavior. The role of an employee, not only the leader, the role of an employee in managing these conflicts, right? This is again critical for each and everybody involved, all the stakeholders, irrespective of the levels that they are in, irrespective of the roles that they play, each one of us has to contribute towards managing these conflicts. Here, since that you are talking about assertive behavior, this kind of reminded a story that I read recently. Yeah, it's in fact a part of a spiritual book, but that is something that I got myself reminded. See, there is a tea estate, okay, which was managed by an old lady. So acres and acres of tea estate managed by an old lady. She had men and women, workers who were doing different tasks, who were taking care of different tasks in the tea estate. This lady, this old lady, she's very particular about the tasks being taken care of. Yeah. So, as you know, in tea estate, normally these workers, they stay there. No, it's like they stay there, then they work, right? So she used to, right from the time these workers, they wake up till the time they, go to sleep, which is like 3 o'clock in the morning till around 10 or 11 at night, she will be there on their head. Okay, she'll be literally sitting on their head and then take care of everything in the sense, micromanaging to a different level. Yeah?
Right.
So she was, she trained one crow to wake these people. Yeah. So around 3 o'clock in the morning, that crow will go to the area where these workers are staying and then start making noises.
Yeah.
Noises, right? So we all know how irritating it can be sometimes, right? Especially when you are in deep sleep after slogging for a whole day. Then these guys had to wake up and then take care of their stuff. Even the breaks, coffee breaks, lunch breaks. This lady will be there. Ensure that they are done with it. They are back to managing the task. Yeah? So it was like irritating for them. Then they all united one day and then decided to kill that crow. Yeah?
Okay.
Then they killed the crow also. So the next day morning, when this old lady, when she woke up, it was like 7 o'clock or something. She was so tensed. What happened? Then immediately she rushed out to see what is happening in the estate. Everybody is sleeping. Nobody is there, doing anything or taking care of anything. Okay. She was like so pissed off, and then she rushed to the place where these people were, staying. She saw that everybody is, sleeping. Then she started searching for that crow. Then she found out that the, crow was dead. Then she kept quiet. Yeah, she didn't know what to do. Good that she kept quiet. Then the next day, she tried, catching another crow and then training, but thinking about training one more crow was a serious task.
Right.
So the next day, she went and then woke all these workers. Okay. When they woke up and then saw, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. Because this lady couldn't sleep because, she was scared of these guys, not working. She couldn't sleep. She woke them up at 2. This continued, like, sometimes it is 1 o'clock. Sometimes she doesn't even let them, sleep. If you look at it, this is what is happening in the workplaces majorly. Yeah, they think that employees think that okay, by doing something the conflict can be managed. They kill the crow. So then
it's so much worse.
So the leaders, they come in instead of training somebody, right, they put in something else. Yeah, they implement a different process, which create a chaotic situation. Neither one party comes up, the other party goes down, or vice versa, so that they can be in the same path.
Correct.
Take some decision, right? Work towards resolution. That is not happening here. So, see, if you look at it, assertive behavior, keeping calm, not raising their voice, it may look like silence, right? They were, the employees here in this tea estate, they were silent, but they took something else. The silence is, seen as one of the critical, tool when it comes to assertive behavior.
Right.
But they used it, wrongly. Right. Similarly, managing team in an assertive way is very, very important for a leader. But this lady totally spoiled it. Right. She spoiled not only the relationship, the productivity is gone, everything is gone. Right? So assertive behavior, it should be learned properly, first of all, and then utilized well so that it remains as helpful, not harmful. So this is critical here. And how can we do that? Normally in my workshops or whenever I'm coaching somebody, I introduce one more trait here, Mitra. With your permission, I would like to introduce that before we, can embrace assertive behavior.
Absolutely.
Super. So contextual intelligence. So this particular term has been coined by Robert Sternberg, who is a Yale University professor in 1985. Yeah. So he was popularizing certain concepts called as triarchic model of intelligence, where he was talking about contextual intelligence. So contextual intelligence is nothing but our ability to implement the concepts that we are learning. See, since you are a part of academia as well, you would have seen the students, whenever they take care of any internship as a part of their curriculum, or when they are doing any academic related projects, right? The success rate is really, really high.
Right.
Because whatever they are learning, it's very, it's completely fresh in their mind. It is easy for them to apply it then and there in any real-time scenario. But the same students, within the gap of 3 to 4 months, when they get into the organizational structure, right, they struggle a lot because they don't know which is the concept that they are supposed to implement, in specific real-time scenario, right? So whatever assertive behavior or whatever skills that we learn, right, we should know how and when to implement. To do that, this contextual intelligence will help. Everybody should up their contextual intelligence quotient. Yeah, this is something I wanted to mention here.
Which is so beautiful, right? It's the appropriate use of your intelligence, and when and where to use is so important. And most of us actually misuse ideas or thought processes or even implementation, for that matter. We implement it in the particularly wrong way. And as you correctly said, we are all managers at some level. It does not matter how senior or junior, but we are always managers at some level. So all this seems to be all the more important from when you start off fresh from college till a very senior level, because you keep learning because you interact with people. And this is so nicely said. And one thing is very clear with assertive behavior is it's very important on how you use assertive behavior, right? And a misuse of it can actually increase the conflict and make it even worse. As the crow story you said, I think just a proper way of communicating and working this out between themselves would have been much easier than she losing her sleep and they losing their sleep because she kept bugging them. It was a very, very interesting story, and it sort of puts it in perspective. So that I think is very important. But talking about these kind of skills or behaviors that one has to develop, I think it's also traits that people, as managerial traits, that they want to develop, right? So what are some essential core skills one has to develop to effectively manage workplace conflicts, at least?
Great question, in fact, Nirmala. Again, see, before skill, there is another perspective that I would like to introduce, which this is how I manage, or I coach people to manage workplace conflicts, right? So there are two different mindsets. See, mindset is important before we talk about the skill set, right? Mindset comes first, and then the skill set kind of complements that mindset.
Right.
So two different mindsets that we should keep in mind, especially for workplace conflicts at the workplace. Growth mindset and empathetic mindset. Yeah, see, growth mindset has been popularly spoken for at least for the past 2 years, and after when we started working from home, when this COVID-19 hit us, right? In fact, I had conducted a couple of sessions on growth mindset itself. Yeah, I have one podcast also released on growth mindset, which is something that we have been talking a lot. Yeah? Fixed mindset and growth mindset. So growth mindset is nothing but our ability in growing continuously by keeping our mindset in a positive way. Yeah? Looking at all the, what can we say, the misshapes as or converting our ability to convert these challenges into gifts.
Right.
Using our mindset, that positive mindset. That is what growth mindset is all about. And then the second is empathetic mindset, especially when it comes to workplace conflicts. This empathy is one critical mindset that skill, we can call it as a skill, or I would say empathetic should be a mindset, then a
Right.
skill.
True.
So when I say empathetic mindset, first thing is I should be empathetic about myself, because I've been working hard. Everybody here, right, today, we are all working very hard. Let's not beat us. Let's be empathetic towards whatever we are doing, the steps that we are taking, be it up or down. That empathetic mindset, when I'm kind to myself, automatically that kindness I will start spreading. I'll be kind to others. Right? So this empathetic mindset and growth mindset, these two are critical. Once we develop these two mindsets, then accumulating and then implementing the whatever we are learning, the skills becomes very easy. Yeah. When it comes to the skill, the first one, if you look at the way the conflicting scenario takes us through, whatever be the conflict, first conflict happens here in our mind, in our brain, right? We start chit-chatting with us. That is the first thing, right? I call it as internal dialogue or inner chit-chat, chatter, whatever name that we give, we start talking to us first, right? There is a positive thing, there is a negative thing. Depending on the mindset, depending on the emotions, depending on the feelings that are playing inside us, either we take the positive side or support the negative side.
Correct.
So managing, developing an ability to manage this inner conflict, this particular skill is very, very important. This is like a fundamental when it comes to workplace conflicts. Once we do that, then, rest of the process becomes much easier. Then the second is emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is again nothing but awareness, self-awareness. It starts from self, how aware I am about my strengths, weaknesses, my emotions, feelings, and then how aware I am about others' sensitivity, the strengths, weaknesses, emotions, and feelings, and then how I'm able to create an alignment between these two. This is the definition of emotional intelligence. So this is a critical skill. Then the third one, since we are talking about workplace conflict, organizational awareness. Learning in depth about how the organization is structured, who is who of what, and what is the escalation mechanism being implemented in that organization. These things are very, very important. So organizational awareness is critical skill that everyone must have. So that's the reason we say, right, whenever you're preparing for an interview, it's the first step. What we are supposed to do is delving deeper, doing some research on the company that we are going to.
Correct, absolutely.
Right. So that's where it starts. So that organizational awareness is important. So as far as the skills are concerned, our ability to manage inner conflicts, emotional intelligence, and organizational awareness. These three I would cite as important skills, Mridula.
That's beautiful, and you cannot have reiterated enough the love for each one's self. That self-love is so important to understand ourselves. Well, as you say, whenever we have an issue, I think even if it is personal, we first sort of run it through our head. It's almost like a movie in our own head, right? What do we think? Why did it happen? Maybe we are in the right. We even justify some of our actions, things like that, right? So that's very, very important. And I think emotional intelligence is something that thankfully has been given a spotlight in the last perhaps couple of years. And finally, it's getting a due that it should have got quite early on. And that has helped quite a few people actually understand why they do things that they do. And or for us to understand why certain others do the way they react. So I think that is also equally important. And as you mentioned, it's very important to have, the mental skill set. And then you have this other set of skill set that only complements what you already developed within you. And that's beautiful. But, taking a step back, and if you just want to, sort of encapsulate what you believe is, the essence of how can one resolve conflicts at work. And, it's not just conflicts at work. You've spoken in depth about skills, but there are certain traps or certain mistakes that you see often people do, right? So some traps that people can avoid. What are your thoughts on that?
Understanding traps are critical again, right? Crucial for us to first of all to understand why we are a part of some conflict, right? So here what I would recommend is, let me put it this way. See, whenever we see something as a conflicting scenario, right? One of the things that immediately we see is somebody bursting out, right? It could be in the way of crying or shouting. See, these things happen in the corporate world. No, I've been hearing stories, listening to stories day in and day out, right? So I've seen, men attending my coaching session having tears in their eyes because they have bottled up emotions. Yeah, these bottled up emotions or the feelings, inability to handle such emotions, even sometimes some personal issues would have led to some conflicts at the workplace.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So what they do, men or women or be it any gender, right? See, nowadays we have learned to bottle up our emotions because we are not giving importance to these emotions. So not understanding the emotions can put us as into some trap. Yeah. So we tend to behave in one way or another. Either burst it out, kind of show some aggressive behavior, or we become passive. More emotions being, put on top of bottled up emotions. We keep adding more in that bottle. Yeah. One day that bottle will burst.
Absolutely.
Right? So that happens. And in fact, one more secret I would like to share here, Mritra. Whenever we see somebody, labeled as toxic or, damaging the organization or a bully, right? Immediately what happens, with the people who are organizing some training session there, right? What they do, they organize some session for the others in the team, right? For example, if the boss is seen as bully, right? Then there will be some conflict management, training or a workshop being organized for the team members to teach them how they can handle this boss or vice versa, right? True. But here we should help these bullies first because they don't, born as bullies. They don't born as toxic. Yeah, maybe they are coming with a lot of baggages. Maybe they were bullied when they were young. Yeah, maybe their parents bullied them, or they were not raised in the convenient or the comfort, the childhood. They were having some abusive relationship in their, childhood. True. We don't know. Yeah. So, like how we say, while flying, first in case of any mishap, we have to put the mask first and then take care of others.
Absolutely.
Right? Similarly, these bullies, these toxic, whoever is labeled as toxic or tough person to handle, be it a leader or anybody, right? They need help. Maybe organizations should consider giving them some one-on-one support. It could be counseling, therapy, or coaching, whatever it may be, depending on the intensity of the problem that these people are having. Once that is addressed, you will see that automatically everything is like falling down in place. Everything is kind of get aligned to the space. Then you don't have to train the team members because you are addressing the root cause. So this is a secret in general, not being addressed in the organization commonly, which is something that I have been witnessing. And then the third trap, word. Yeah, words are very powerful. We underestimate the power of words. Yeah, we are talking about power of pause and everything as a part of our communication, but words that we utter are very important. See, nowadays, I wonder why or how this particular term, got that popularity, depression. Yeah. If the Uber cancels your appointment, I mean, your the drive, right? Immediately somebody says, you know what, I'm depressed because today my Uber, it didn't.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. Or easily we are using certain terms, right? So depression, if you look at this particular word depression, it's almost the final stage of our emotional issue, right? But just like that, by using these words, we are kind of degrading either ourselves or the power of these words. Just by using these words, we are accumulating a lot of negativity within us without it's like a complete ignorance.
Correct. We don't realize. Yeah.
Yeah. So similarly, gossip. Yeah, in workplace scenario, right? Everything is becoming a gossip. Right? So gossip is a powerful tool. You can use it to your advantage in a beautiful way, without creating any negativity, without breaking the brand that we are supposed to build. So like that, words are very powerful. We should know how to use them so that we don't get into any trap.
Absolutely.
And how can we resolve conflict? It's good to have some conversation within the organization. If somebody is seeing that, okay, that's not happening, better to take some external intervention, like having a coach like me, or a counselor, or a therapist. Most of the organization, they may be having some internal coaches, or
Correct.
or the clinical psychologists and all, right? So good to take the third party support, be it internal or external, right? So that we can resolve it or get rid of the conflict at the bud stage, then letting it grow, and then try to solve it, increase the complexity, and then end up spending more. Yeah, it's not only about the money that being spent, although the time, effort, business loss.
Absolutely.
We can do
And just
well
a mental peace, right? It's just the mental peace.
Yes.
Once you get a conflict, that's gone.
Yep. Definitely. Peace of mind. Yeah, that is the highly valuable thing that we are all not having it in place, right?
Correct.
Beautifully said. Because end of the day, it's people, right? You, me, and he, she. We are all the creators of conflicts, and we are all the ones who are resolving these conflicts also. So if we focus on supporting people in the organization, everything will fall in place beautifully, automatically. We don't have to really get into any intervention mode.
I really liked your secret, because I think so most of us don't think about it. But what happens is that, as you very correctly said, see, for example, I have a tendency, if somebody is very abrasive or sort of aggressive in their behavior, I tend to avoid them, because for me, I do not appreciate conflict, nor do I like to, argue. And, I like a peaceful environment, perhaps, and I strive very hard towards it. But what happens is, when you avoid somebody like that, you never send the signal that, what they're doing is unacceptable. And second, you're not resolving the issue as such, because it just continues as a behavior. And it affects other people as well. So, it's not like it's a personal responsibility, but I also feel sometimes it is easier to try and resolve these matters without putting it off, right? But the biggest issue, I think, and perhaps you will know better, is most institutions do not recognize these bullies or, people with a problematic management ethic. So how do we actually sort of bring this up? Because we see conflict management at an employee level, but as you correctly mentioned, there could be one toxic manager or senior manager who brings down the entire organization, actually. How do we do that then?
It's a pertinent point that you have brought in here, Mritula. Because see, normally whenever we define KPIs or what are the KRAs, right? There normally what happens, especially these bullies, if they are the bosses, where they bring in revenue. Correct. See, in general, aggressive people, if you look at it, right, keenly notice, they bring in money. So here, one way, money is coming in, but when we are doing that maths, right, we don't look at the math contributed by, or the numbers contributed in the way of attrition. See, nowadays we are talking about this great resignation, right? When Absolutely. An employee or a group of people leave the organization, what is the cost involved in bringing new people in and training them, right? If you do that math, right, whatever these people are bringing in, the revenue may be really good, but if you look at the EBITDA or the profit quotient, right, maybe it is really low. So here, the first step what organizations can do is, whenever there is it's a part of the performance appraisal system, right? When they are setting a goal, it should not be, the target should not only connected with the target should be connected with the attrition management, the retention management, and then how people are being treated. See, quantifiable certain stuff, there should be some qualitative assessment being done on these managers. See, we have these 360-degree and then Marshall goals made. So many instruments are there. Right? Organizations do that. Yeah, they spend their time, effort, and money and do these assessments. After that, what happens? That is where all the difference is all about, right? So what sort of intervention that they are bringing in? Is it again just a tick mark? Okay, fine. No, we have a training done on conflict management. We have done on this leadership skill building, done. But are they measuring the ROI? After that, what happens? See, measurement again is happening in terms of number, not in terms of the qualitative. The qualitative measurement is missing in most of the organizational structure. That's what I have been witnessing. So measuring the impact of the intervention or having this bully, is it really useful to have this bully and then bring in the number, or replace the, either you should help that bully or replace. Correct. That's it for the long-term growth. So it should be seen in the long term, and then the ROI, the definition of ROI, the KPIs, KRAs, aligned with that ROI should be defined properly, tracked properly.
No, that's very, very well said. In fact, what happens is, as you say, they may be amazing employees, but not good bosses. So attrition really, as you mentioned, that gives you an idea of how difficult it is to work under the person or work with that person as well, right? And that itself tells you what kind of a manager they are. They might be a good employee, but as a manager, there are so many other things that come into it. So I think these are very pertinent points that I hope organizations include. But I cannot thank you enough, because this insight has to be shared, and the fact that you're willing to share it so freely and answer questions completely from a novice, by the way. And these are very interesting, because I know there are so many people out there who understand conflict management per se, but they also don't realize what kind of a toxic environment they're creating. And I think that is equally important, if not other skills that you build up, all your technical skills that you build up over a period of years. And when they go back for all these management, whatever, education and re-education and reskilling, I don't think they bring up all of these as well, right? At that point, isn't that quite significant?
It should be seen in 360 degree. There should be an alignment between the institutes, I mean the educational institutions, academia, and then the industry, not only in terms of the fresher community or the student community, also in terms of executive education, right? So what are the pertinent skills or the mindset that they're supposed to build to manage this scenario that we are all creating, right? Because we are all talking about that VUCA, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, and these things are going to go up as we bring in technological interventions, as we expand our horizons to globally across geographies, right? The conflicting scenarios, the VUCA scenario, it's going to be expanded. The complexity involved here, it's going to be expanded. So how are we going to expand further to include everybody? Is what we should, that is the question. Probably we should leave it to the the decision makers to focus on.
And I hope they do look at it, because I think it's very critical coming out now. Very true. I cannot thank you enough, Shubha. It has been such a pleasure talking to you. And it's just so much of joy to, exchange and learn information as well. And I think very few people with their expertise have the time. Those who are making time, have the willingness to share whatever they want to share. So I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Much gratitude, Mridula, to giving me this platform to share my insights, right? So this is like a great opportunity for me. Thank you so much. And then all the very best to whatever you are doing, because I know how many people can be, benefited. It's like millions and millions of them can be benefited if they are listening to such conversation, right? Which goes in depth, and then we come out with a lot of insights, right?
Correct.
So definitely millions are there benefiting from this time that you are investing in this process, right? It's not an easy thing, since you have multiple hats, you are wearing multiple hats, and then you are doing so many things beautifully. My best wishes to you. Look forward to many such conversations in the coming days, Mridula.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for those very kind words. And that's why it started, because I just found there were so many people with their expertise in different areas. We never really talk to people and willing to learn. Invariably, we would like to talk more. So I think if we just started listening to people, there's so much more that we can learn. And your expertise is very valuable, especially as you mentioned in VUCA. These times are very, very critical for a lot of us. We're coming out of it, hopefully, but you never know,
Yep.
So thank you so much, Shubha. It was such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks.